Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that introduction. Hey, one thing before John leaves, one thing I haven't heard from the other session was there is another meeting that MD Publishing puts on. It's called the ICE Conference, the Imaging Community Exchange. And it's next month in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's targeted toward, obviously, the imaging community. So there's radiology directors. If there's anybody, especially on the East Coast or in the Florida area, invite your radiology directors. Make sure that they're aware of that meeting. It's a great meeting. It's a very intimate meeting. It's smaller, and there's a lot of great information that gets exchanged in that meeting. So if you're in the southeastern United States area and can get over to the ICE meeting, I think it's a great show to attend. So I just wanted to make that announcement. And MD Publishing has been a tremendous asset for our career field. And I just want to, I see John in the back. I do want to thank John and his team for what they do for us. We are tremendously blessed to have John Krieg put his resources toward our career field. And I'll talk a little bit about that because there is some credit that needs to be given in the recruiting side of things for what the MD Publishing team does for us, and just getting these meetings together so that we can get together with our peers, talk about the exchange of ideas in all we do, not just recruiting, but in equipment management as well. So a little bit about me, 36-year career in healthcare. So I haven't always been in quote unquote biomed. I started off as a biomed tech shortly after graduating school. Actually, I was hired before I graduated school, but I did do a little bit of a stint with some OEMs. I was with a balloon pump manufacturer, and I got to fly all over the country and teach about intra-aortic balloon pumping, and got to fly in helicopters with the balloon pumps as we transported patients around the region. So I did some of that. I also worked for when it was Datascope, before it was Mindray. I was a product manager, so I was in the marketing department, and I handled all of their OEM products. So they had a product monitor that we got from Fukuda Denshi. We got a product, we got a product from Datex, a gas bench from Datex, and then we had an MRI monitor from Brooker in France. So that was a lot of fun, got to a lot of international travel, and then came back into the biomed world. And currently, my current role is with Universal Health Services. Who's Universal Health Services? We are a hospital management company. We own and operate 28 acute care hospitals around the country. We also own and operate about 450 behavioral health facilities in the country, about 225 in the UK, and just a half a dozen or so in the Caribbean. So for the acute care side, we have about a little over 6,300 beds and about 120,000 medical devices in our inventory. That's a little bit about me. Disclosures. So, because I am a hiring manager, I see Doug in the audience. There's also some others that you may see here. I do use recruiters from time to time to hire people. So I wanted to be full disclosure that I do use people who are probably at this meeting. And there's rented labor that I use. I see somebody in here from that perspective. So just disclosures about hiring people. So the current picture. So look at me, a lot of bald hair. I see some gray hair in the audience. We're not getting any younger. There's going to be at least, they say 5 to 7 years, there's going to be a 20 to 25% of us retiring from the career field. And I don't know if y'all look behind you, but there's not a whole lot of schools that are generating graduates to backfill us that will be retiring in the next 5 to 7 years. So that's a problem. That's a huge problem. The well is getting emptied, and the supply is not enough to keep on filling the well. We better be concerned about it. Well, at least I'm concerned about it. I want to make sure that we're all concerned about it, because the career field, I don't know for you, but it has been one of the most amazing rides I've ever had. And I have been tremendously blessed to have been in this career field. I didn't want to come into this career field. So there was a couple of things on the path that I went to the Air Force Academy for a year. I wanted to be a airline pilot eventually. And then after I left the Air Force Academy and I went to Drexel in Philadelphia, I was in the physics department. I wanted to be a physicist. Can you imagine that? And I spent a little bit of time on the ninth floor of the building where the physicists were at. And I was having lunch one day, and I was listening to the conversations going on around me as a young freshman at Drexel. And I thought, oh my gosh, is that what I'm going to sound like in a couple of years? Everything in life was about physics. So I didn't become a physicist. I took an elective in this emerging field of biomedical engineering. I just took an elective. I had a female instructor, and I did pretty well in the class. But one of my friends was my lab partner. He told her, he said, Nowak, he's not going to stay in this career field. He has no intention of going forward. I'm going into telecommunications, satellites, and stuff like that. So she had a talk with me, and she said, well, what's your concern? I said, well, there's no money in it. So she said, I'm going to have you talk to some folks. So she sent me over to University of Pennsylvania, and the rest is history. I chose the career field, and it was the greatest decision I ever made. So just a little bit more about me. So some more of the challenges that we're doing, retirements is a challenge, academic credentialing requirements. I do see that happening. You see more discussion about certifications. I think certifications is going to be a big deal. I was the chair of the ACI for a period, the Amy Credentials Institute. I just stepped down last June. And then before the ACI, it was the USCC, so I was the chair over there as well. But, it's like nurses have credentialing, and respiratory therapists are credentials, and radiology techs are credentialed. I think we're going to have to, at some point in time, I think there's going to be some type of credentialing required. We have a tremendous push by OEMs who they want to make sure they're doing all the service. And they say that our teams aren't trained. But anybody that graduates from a decent electronics program or biomedical program certainly should have the skill set to perform what's required. There's fewer academic programs. Schools are shutting down. There's a couple of startups, but certainly nothing like where we were, in the early 2000s or 1990s. There were lots of schools. So those academic programs that are shut down require students to not seek employment locally. You're going to have to probably go out of state, perhaps, to find employment. So that's a problem. And then, of course, career fields. So IT, especially for us, I suspect IT might be the most difficult one that we're competing with now, as salaries continue to increase in that career field. Cybersecurity. And we'll talk a little bit about that, because I love that piece of it. And I think that's something that we need to do from a retention perspective. So we need to get engaged in the IT environment if you're not already. In our situation, out of those 120,000 medical devices, the last I looked, I think we had like 46,000 and change medical devices are connected to the network. So a big vulnerability. Anything connected to the network is a vulnerability. Who better to manage the medical device side of the vulnerabilities? And don't abdicate that responsibility to the IT team in your facility. Embrace it, take it on, learn about it, and have your team learn about it. So And I think that would satisfy some of those folks that might be looking at the IT side of things where they're engaged on medical device side and that network connectivity. Technology is advancing extremely quickly, so trying to stay up with it. It's important that we give our teams, or you're a technician, that you take the initiative to continue your education. I think that's one thing that certification does, is it pretty much forces you to continue to educate yourself on very relevant technologies. So it stays up with that advancing technology and the education required to maintain your relevance in the career field. So quality of candidates. Rather than recruiting new candidates, employers recruit from competitors. So that's problematic if you're a hiring manager, right? It seems like we're all trading sometimes. Joe's jumping from Texoma over to Valley Hospital, and so we're not putting any more water in the well. We're just sloshing water around in the bottom of the well. So that's a problem for us. That's continues to be a challenge. Causes just a shifting of candidate pool rather than the expansion of the candidate. Manufacturers are placing hooks in the devices, okay, making it more difficult for our teams to service those. We have to be able to solve those issues or help out those issues. And how do we do that? Really on the purchasing side of things. The ability for us to sit at the purchasing table with our supply chain leaders, that's how we're going to cure that problem. Because the manufacturers can put all the hooks they want into the systems, but if you're sitting at the table and you have support from your supply chain leadership, your hospital leadership, I can recall I was sitting at the table and it was for lab equipment. It was a piece of microbiology gear, a microbiology analyzer. And I'm sitting at the table. There's a physician that's over microbiology sitting at the table. My director of supply chain was sitting at the table. And across from us was BioMaru. And they wanted to sell us that microbiology analyzer. And of course, who's this guy sitting at the table? Why should, he's asking for training and education for his staff. Well, we don't do that. We don't do that. Well, you train and educate your service engineers, right? Well, yeah, there are service engineers. Well, no, we own it. We want the training and education. And the doctor looked the sales guy right in the eye and said, you know what? If you don't give him what he needs, I'm not going to give you what you need, which is a purchase order. The rest was history. We got training and education on that microbiology analyzer. So I think that's how we have to think about curing that trouble, that challenge. And again, that training and education makes your team, it grows your team, it makes them more valuable, it makes them more satisfied to continue to work for you and your hospital, your employer, or even if you're a third party. Getting that training and education is going to make your organization more valuable, as well as that individual more valuable. Challenges, specialized tooling, software requirements. If there's any kind of proprietary tooling and things like that, again, negotiate that into the purchasing side of things. Ryan is one of my directors sitting over here. He does a very good job at that. Very good job. Software updates and enhancements. That's getting more and more difficult because OEMs are really looking at that as a tremendous revenue stream. They want those software agreements, service software agreements, right? And now some of them, especially on the monitoring side, but there's upgrades, right? We can continue to provide upgrades to the monitoring systems. Well, my system is one of the few for-profit health systems in the United States. So our competitors are HCA, Tenant. So we're a for-profit And our view on that from the software side and that constant paying for hardware and software in the service agreement is not something that we like to do, right? We buy a monitor with certain capabilities. As far as software upgrades, if there's a software problem found, that's owed to us anyway. So so in 10 years, if we want to buy a new monitoring set, we go out and buy a new monitoring set. We don't want to go and pay twice for that monitoring system through a service agreement. So that's something that we shy away from. That's something you need to consider as you move forward. So now we'll talk a little bit about career field. How can we generate the excitement to lure potential candidates into our career field? It's our responsibility as HTM folks, whether you're a technician or a leader, ensuring that our own career field, you become a cheerleader for your career field. You heard me talk a little bit about my experience. Man, it has been a fantastic ride. I love what I do. I love coming here. I love coming here and giving talks. And now Ryan's starting to give talks at these meetings. We can be our best cheerleaders, and that has to pour out into the community. It also helps you with recruiting, right? Folks, if they know what you and your hospital and health system is doing, they may enjoy, having that opportunity to work in a cybersecurity environment or MRI service, things like that. So again, from a recruiting perspective, be your own cheerleader. Get out there to the high schools. Try to get into your high schools on career day, even if you don't have any children, right? They're always looking for opportunities to have folks come in and speak with the kids. Not everybody's going to go to Harvard and Yale or State College. There's opportunities for everybody in high school. I even listed school board participation. Get involved in your school board. You're paying those real estate taxes that you're paying. And most of it goes toward your school, not your local community. Your local community is very, very small portion of your real estate taxes. So try to participate in school board meetings. MD Publishing is a fantastic opportunity to create career field visibility. They are thousands and thousands of dollars on national into helping our career, getting the word out. There's materials, there's free webinars to grow your staff. Make time so your staff can attend those webinars. Again, that's going to help you retain staff. If you're doing it and your editor is not doing it, that may make you a much more desirable facility to come and work for. So again, you're building the well of opportunity. You're building your potential candidates when you're growing. We can talk a little bit about that in a while, where out into those areas that you're not involved with, whether it's the clinical laboratory. Maybe you're just doing centrifuges and checking the speed and the timer on it, or temperatures on the blood bank system, something like that. Get involved in the chemistry analyzers. Again, up on the purchasing side of things, you can affect that. You can get into those training classes. Those companies are training their own staff. There's classes that they're holding. They're not going to create a class just for you. They don't have to, I should say. They don't have to create a class just for you. But you got to get on the front end and negotiate hard and make sure you have support from your lab director, your administration, so that you all have a seat at the table and you're all singing the same song. Don't let them see a crack of weakness, a chink in the armor. That's not going to fly because they'll exploit that opportunity if they can. Work together. Amy's a nonprofit in Arlington, Virginia. They certainly have lots of opportunities for us to grow. Also, different webinars. Not so many free things anymore, but there's some occasionally from there. That's why that MD Publishing one is so important to us. But they certainly get engaged in HTM Week that's coming up in May. There's posters that you can get for nothing from Amy to talk about. Put them in your high school. Get a poster and put it in your high school. Let them know about your career field so that we continue to build that well, put water in the well. So the best thing a hiring manager could do for recruiting is be involved in the career field. Be involved. You're here, you're involved, you care. Landon's your first meeting, isn't it? Be involved. You've taken the first step from a recruiting perspective and building that well. Being involved through local societies. We got a great local society right here in North Texas, the North Texas Biomed Association. Fantastic society. Get involved in it. There's other ones across the country as well. California, CMIA is a great one. Florida has a great one. Get involved if that's in your local area and it's within reach. Membership in Amy. I've been an Amy member for a long time. It's expensive, but you know, for $250 or so, investment in your career for $250, you can probably forego some splurge, maybe a weekend or something like that. But I think it's a value. Participation in meetings like this, National AMD Expo, Amy Exchange. No Amy Exchange this year except for virtual, and they're still charging $275 or something like that. Be the best be the best friend at work. Okay, what do I mean by that? Not necessarily your staff or your teammates, but your for those leaders in the room, your HR recruiters. Be their best friends. Get to know them. It can be a stumbling block when it comes to hiring people, especially if you want to go and source from a recruiter, because recruiter can be expensive. Let them know the value that you're delivering to your organization, because to them you're just an expense for the most part, right? They don't understand. We're the folks in the basement, right? We run around the hospital and pick up stuff. They don't know what happens to it. Educate them a little bit. Hang out with them a little bit more. Get them engaged in what we do and the value that we deliver to the facility. Then they'll be more apt to make that investment for $15,000 or $20,000 as a recruiting fee to get you the right people to work for your organization. Vendor relationships, another great one. So John has this meeting and his team have put on this meeting. It's a fantastic opportunity for all of us to spend time with the vendors. We're going to have this right after this great reception. The vendors are going to be in their booths. Man, it's so important. You know, what drives me crazy when I hear people on my staff, there's a salesperson that walks through the door and it's like, oh shit, you know, I gotta go hide. Let me go hide. No, don't hide. I always looked at this opportunity. Now, of course, there's going to be, let me see. Let me call them duds, right? There's going to be duds, and there's duds in it. Hey, there's duds in our career field, right? We may know some of them. There's the same thing in every walk of life. However, there's a lot of wonderful human beings that are salespeople, and they're trying to put food on their table. And man, I got so much education. I knew what was coming next, some of the new technologies. So get engaged with them, learn from them. They know, they're visiting all of your competitive hospitals around. They may, if it's a bigger school, maybe that school, they're looking for donations, so they hit up this company. They may know who's coming out of school, some of the good students that are coming out of school. But like I said, more importantly, they know around the town of who are the good techs, who are maybe the duds, and they're giving you information as to opportunities for recruitment. So it's important. Where did I put my clicker? Here it is up here. So vendor relationships are so important to me. Make sure that you get engaged with those vendors. Like I said, if there's duds, there's duds, put them aside. Consider using professional recruiters. As I said, I have full disclosure. Doug is in the room, fantastic. Company's been in our business 33. He and Tim and his others know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. There's other professional recruiters in the career field. A lot of them know what they're doing. They're not just presenting warm bodies to you. That's the problem, right? They don't want a bad reputation. They don't want a bad reputation. They want to make sure that if, MMS, if you're getting somebody as a temporary labor from MMS, they want to make sure you have a good experience. If you're getting somebody from Doug, you want to make sure you have a good experience. They're not going to risk that reputation. So consider using professional recruiters. And there's some neat creative ways some of these organizations help you through finding employees. For instance, I'll use one process. You may need temporary labor, and a lot of times you pay for that temporary labor, and then that person goes away. You may need to replace an employee. We worked out an opportunity with a recruiter where we had that person on our working for us for 6 months, and then after 6 months, we had the opportunity to recruit that person, bring that person on board, or get another one, or again continue to use that person. But in the agreement to recruit that person, it made the pain of the fee to recruit that person after 6 months almost disappear, right? Because we paid a little premium during those first 6 months to try out that individual. And then if that was the right choice for us, we were able to hire that person. We did that many, many times. So get creative, think outside the box. Your peers, here we are in this room, chat with each other as we go over and have a few beverages, some adult beverages perhaps, but chat with them. Get to know who your peers are in the field, even if it's not trying to steal somebody from somebody else, but maybe there's somebody that you're looking to hire. The first thing I do when I'm in the hiring process and I'm recruiting and I see resumes come across my desk and there's somebody that I like or seems to be good, I start to see where they were. And if I know somebody that was with that same organization, I start making phone calls. And I want to find out. That last talk that we were in is so great from that perspective. I want to hire winners, right? I don't hire warm bodies. We don't have time for that. Our career field is fast-paced. It's a big deal. I want to make sure that I hire quality individuals that provide a return on the investment that we're going to put into that individual. So I make phone calls to my peers. Hey, do you know so-and-so? And usually I get some good information. It's informal. There's nothing formal about it. It's just a couple of folks getting together and chatting about the career field and folks that work in the career field. One thing that we did at UHS is we had an intern program. And, some of us have intern programs and, the school might be down the street and you get the intern and you don't want to pay any money for the intern or anything like that, right? We don't. Goodness gracious, thank goodness UHS, we were blessed that we could actually pay interns $16 an hour for an intern. It's fantastic. That was great. There was a limited amount of positions. I'm laughing at Troy as my other director up there in Enid, Oklahoma. But, it was first come, first serve. But we had the opportunity to try out these students that are soon to graduate, pay them money, return on the investment. And even if what happened in our situation, TSTC was a good school and it was close to some facilities. But that other slide, a couple slides ago, where I said, hey, you got to have students that are prepared to maybe look outside of where they grew up at. We had several out of this organization that interned for us down in South Texas, but we hired them in Amarillo. We hired them in Nevada, in Las Vegas, Nevada. So again, another great opportunity for interns, whether it's paid or unpaid, but paid just make it easier. It's more attractive. So we got to try out those. We knew who were good workers and who were not good workers, but when we were paying, we made sure that they were good workers. We made sure they had the ethic. If it was kind of like down in Florida, we had some interns and they didn't intern very long, because we need the return on the investment. If we're going to invest in them, they have to invest in their career and potential. And like I said, that we could have moved them out of Florida and gone somewhere else, or we did have some good positions open in Florida as well. And then I talked a little bit about this Rent-A-Tech program. Doug does it, MMS does it, Sherelle back there does it. It's a great opportunity to test drive. If you work with these individuals and you know that there's a potential to hire them, they'll work with you and success will be had. So hopefully I'm starting to give you a couple of nuggets that are useful for your recruiting process and putting more water in the well for your program. Make your program attractive, okay? Are you marketing your program? Well, hopefully I'm standing up here in front of all you, and hopefully you're hearing some good things about my program. So, there's articles that you can write. John and his team at MD Publishing are always looking for articles. You don't have to be a professional writer, but you could submit an article that talks about your program or something that you're doing in your program. Maybe a piece of technology that you've taken on board. I've written articles about my experience on infant abduction systems and going through the process of vetting vendors for infant abduction systems, RTLS systems. And you publish that. You get that published with MD Publishing or maybe one of the other periodicals in our career field that are available to us. Market your program. It gets you and your facility, Dallas Children's Hospital. I know Andrea's been published and her team have been published in different publications. People know who you are and say, hey, I saw that article that was written by those folks over at Dallas Children's. It looked pretty cool to go over there and work. So, and Andrea was telling me they're building a new hospital in the near future. So if Dallas is your place, you might be hiring in a few years, a couple of years, right? Is your program antiquated? I hope I'm not offending anybody. Because I just tell you like it is. It is what it is. Is your program antiquated? Are you just doing PMs, infusion pumps? Pretty boring stuff. Like I said, today, A lot of our devices are connected to the network. Get involved. We're deploying a new product, the IoT, IoMT space. We just went with Assimile. So my team is engaged in that. All of our edge devices are coming to our facilities. We work hand in hand with IT. I paid for the product. It came out of my budget. For that. You're thinking, oh my gosh. My CISO is sitting right behind, my Chief Security Information Officer was sitting beside me, and my CIO is over here. I bought the system. We're working together. The CISO and his team are engaged. The CIO and his team are engaged because we're all going to use it. We're all going to exploit the data and technology that we get out of it. The system does utilization, okay? So the reason why I'm talking about this is the value that you can provide to your employer. So that product, yes, there's some money involved in buying that product and getting it deployed, but utilization, infusion pump utilization. And my director down in Texas, Monica Garcia, and Rudy, the regional director, you know, we know how often pumps are being used on the network. So the next time an order comes in for 100 more BD infusion pumps, we're like, wait a minute. Our utilization rate is only 37%. Why are we buying 100 more infusion pumps? We have a problem in the process of distribution. Let's fix the process of distribution, not invest, you know, a couple $100,000 into BD between hardware acquisition and software acquisition. All of our infusion pumps are on the network. We use the automated pump programming. We have Cerner. We're a Cerner house. So the nurse, he or she doesn't have to program the pump anymore. The order comes down from the floor to the pharmacy. The pharmacy mixes up the bag for the infusion, and the pharmacist puts, you know, how many mics per kilo in the system. The bag goes up to the floor. The nurse scans the bag. The nurse scans the pump. Hang the bag. Push 3 buttons, like 3 keystrokes. It's all pumping on its own. So we're connected to the internet, folks. This is technology. Beds. I know people, I hear the groans. Are you kidding me? Bed maintenance? That's maintenance man does bed maintenance. No, we do bed maintenance, right? We do bed maintenance, right? It sounds like it sucks, but you know, we're taking weights of patients, right? A lot of our beds have a scale involved. What are they doing with the weight of the patient from the bed? They're medicating the patient, right? They're giving the patient drugs according to the weight on the scale. So you know what? If that weight's wrong, you could kill the patient because you're over infusing or you're giving too much drug or something. You can kill the patient. It's important. Who's better positioned to manage technology that important? It's us. Embrace it. Take advantage of it. Because I think beds are going to be, there's a couple of companies already connecting through Wi-Fi beds. So I think you said EMR. Yeah. So you know what? The status of the handrail is now going to be documented in your EMR because, right, we have patient falls. It's costing tons of money in your hospitals when a patient falls. Well, now we want to make sure that we're documenting when the rail is up, when the rail is down, the weight of the patient, all that great stuff. So my point is, go out into some of the uncomfortable environments. Medical imaging, you know, that medical imaging, yeah, we've been doing a lot of that for years now, but get more engaged in your medical imaging equipment, not just the portables or the lower end stuff. Get engaged in some of the higher cath labs. Great opportunity to service cath labs. Do you use an AEM program? Okay, so you know I started that portion off about PMs. Well, you know what? PMs, we got to do PMs. We got to do effective PMs. PMs that mean something. PMs that get you results. I had a BSEE in one of my facilities highly qualified, smart dude. And he's doing PMs on infusion pumps. I went over to him one day and I said, Greg, he's remanufacturing infusion pumps, right? I mean, it's crazy the amount of time he's putting into an infusion pump PM. I said, Greg, you're doing that test. Did that test ever fail? Oh no, Chris, that test never fails. Well, why do you do it? Well, it says it in the book. It says it right there. It says I have to do that step by step. Well, we manage risk, right? We do that day in and day out, don't we? Infusion pumps. Consider them an EM program. How much time is that going to free up? It's going to free up a lot of time. And now, hey, go into learning about a clinical chemistry analyzer, an MRI system. I can send somebody to school, even if you're not doing full service on the MRI, send somebody to MRI school and you can negotiate a reduction for a full service contract. I'll tell you a story about radiation oncology. I had a strong radiation oncology program. We had a cyber knife, right? Big machine, robot, radiation therapy system. When the patient's breathing, the head of the robot's going up and down because it's irradiating that specific spot for that cancer. That service contract was $495,000 a year. I went at the company. I had the relationship with my RAD director, my radiation oncology director, sat right beside me. We went right at that company, Accuray, Marion now Siemens. We went right at that company, said, hey, you're going to educate the in-house biomed. Hem and hawed a little bit. They educated 2 of my staff, 2, and they reduced the contract to $270,000 a year. It's huge. And what that did for my team, it was exciting. It was new technology. It was serious technology. Radiation therapy, you kill somebody in a second if you get it wrong. It's great. They loved it. They embraced it. One of the other things I did, mundane, pulling cables, right? Copper. We sent 10 people to Fluke School to learn how to terminate copper and terminate fiber optics. The staff embraced it. They went, man, this is the greatest thing. I remember being in on Saturday. We were putting a whole new Philips monitoring installation in a brand new building. And instead of paying a contractor to pull cabling, my staff was like, hey, dude, we'll terminate the fiber. We'll terminate the copper. That way we know exactly where all that infrastructure is. If we ever have an issue, we did it. We saved that facility $340,000 by doing it ourselves. We bought the DTX cable tester. We certified every fiber, every copper. And we gave it to the IT director because that was one of the CIO was like, wait a minute, I don't know if we should do this because, our vendor gives us a certified, no problem, we certified it. So little things like that, maybe take you a little bit away from that. Hey, it's just PMs on infusion pumps and, that kind of thing, sequential compression devices. AM program, use it. The value proposition for your might actually address multiple issues with your HCA program by enticing candidates, saving big money, increasing safety and satisfaction for your patients. How? Taking non-traditional biomedical roles and responsibilities. The cost savings is amazing. Gosh, we were started off, we were saving $10, $11 million a year. We're well over $20 million a year in savings from where we were back in 2016 when we started our in-house program. And there's some more. I talk about the copper and fiber pulls and termination. Surgical video integration, another great one, right? In your ORs. Don't outsource hey, nurse call systems. I remember the hospital down the street. We were looking at buying some new nurse call. We went down the street. They were spending over $100,000 a year for the vendor to come in and fix their nurse call systems whenever it broke. And the guy was like the Maytag repair. And I was like, bring that in-house. You do that in-house, right? Right? All that? Brian does it. I know he and his team do it. So, drilling the well. Do you drill deeper or drill a new well? Well, what does drilling deeper get you? Well, it'd be more difficult, right? So you can encounter rock. Does it mean you're going to get better water if you drill deeper? And you know what else the problem is? The deeper you go, the higher you have to lift the water to get it out of the well. So drilling deeper, that's kind of the process of trying to recruit people from down the street, and some of those situations that it can sometimes be more difficult to get those candidates, and it's really going after the new well that you want to. So some of the things that I've been talking about, your vendors, relationships with your vendors, finding where there's perhaps new schools that are popping up. And a good rule of thumb when you're drilling a new well, drill as shallow as possible and as deep as necessary. Maximize your recruiting time. Don't waste time. Try to be as efficient as possible when you're recruiting. Lean on folks, MMS, Doug and his team, great team there. Just wonderful human beings to help you get what you need when it comes to personnel. Develop user relationships, hone your marketing skills, school boards, your relationship with your own boss and your HR leaders, that value proposition. Keep communicating. Hey, you know what? If we drop these service contracts, I can save $100,000 while I hire a full TE, a full person, and I train them and provide them the tools for that. And I'm still saving you $100,000. Let them know that. Sell them your program. Sell them your solutions. Make sure you do it with confidence. Make sure they understand that you're confident enough to take over those responsibilities. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Yes. Right. You get to know them though, right? That instructor that's letting you do that.
So there's all kinds of ways that I think that I've been able to engage and find. Am I not talking loud enough? There's a lot of ways that you can really get out there and engage the younger people. That there's such a mindset from this generation, these 20-some-year-olds and high school students. They don't even know what biomed is. My daughter thought I was sending her, she wanted her to go pick up biohazard waste. Seriously, that's what she said. And she goes, I don't know why you would do that, Mom. No, they fix the equipment in the hospital. No one ever thinks about who does your job, right? It's under the covers, behind the curtains, It's the land of Oz once you get in there. And biomeds are really great people. We're just not really good at socializing sometimes. So find that cheerleader that can get out in the community for you, like a Sherelle or like a Chris. And I'm happy to help you guys. If you want to learn more tricks about LinkedIn, I'm happy to help anytime.
Well, thanks, Sherelle. Yeah. And she's using the words, right? We're not great marketers typically, right? We're not great marketers. We don't sell ourselves like the way we should sell ourselves. And cheerleading, she used the word cheerleading. Yeah, we got to be our own cheerleader sometimes. So, yeah, red one.
I'm going to need my own microphone. People find out I would need my own microphone. All right, so I'm JC Newell, Director of HTM at JPS Health Network. And we had a wonderful advisory meeting at Collin College yesterday. And this is one of the big things we talked about, how to get the word out about our industry and what we can do. And one of the things that came up was your local workforce commission. Your local workforce commission is trying to place people for jobs, and they have education. They give them educational grants. They give them money to go to some kind of training or school. Go and talk to them. Talk to them about this field. It is a trade. They have plenty of people to give. Another thing that we didn't talk about yesterday that I want to talk about that I did when I was an instructor at Brown Mackey is that I created a entry-level biomed Facebook page. Everybody came to the Facebook page who was a student waiting to get that first opportunity. And that's what I usually do when I'm trying to help entry levels find jobs. I just reach out. There are 3 positions at so-and-so. All of the students that are on there saying, hey, I graduated here, I graduate here. Can I get an opportunity to do that? And we work with them on that. But that's also an interesting way to keep them engaged, just creating a student Facebook page for all of the college. That way they intermingle with each other. They see what each other is doing, what they like, and then you can just talk to them all at one time and invite vendors to the page to be a part of that page, or invite the the old mans of the world, 50 years. Pops know who. Pops know, yes, I'm one of his kids. I mean, but just invite them to the page so that they can have a pool of people that they can talk to when they're getting ready to get out. You can also post internship opportunities and things like that, but it's something that's with them today. They're all on Facebook anyway. At least get the message that comes across, and there you go.
Fantastic, JC. Anybody else have any? We got about 5 minutes left before we head to the party. And Justin's going to talk a little bit.
So the young people, I have a YouTube channel about biomed, and because of that, I interact with hundreds, if not thousands, of these younger people. And one of the things I've realized is that a lot of people don't understand how the young people connect with us. You've got Reddit channels, we've got Facebook pages, we have YouTube videos. There's content creators around the world that are starting to create these videos, and that's how these people learn. The traditional way of going to meetings and stuff like that, that's not how young people do business. They want to go to a website, they want to chat with other people, figure out job opportunities, and job boards like LinkedIn, they're migrating to those type of pages.
Fantastic, man. Yeah. I know. But yeah, I look at my 25-year-old and Reddit, he's always going to Reddit. And yeah, that is a great opportunity. You should write an article for TechNation and TikTok. You should write it. You should get with somebody at MD Publishing and write an article for TechNation, because that is a great, what you just said is fantastic and should be published. Anybody else? Well, hey, I appreciate your attendance this afternoon and your participation. And I look forward to seeing you around in the exhibit hall. Thank you.